Just testing you. Hello, hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Black Remembering podcast, where we highlight the heavy and the hope. This episode of our Black Remembering podcast welcomes a very special guest, Oceanna Smith. Thank you for joining us.
Hey y'all, I'm glad to be here.
So I like to do a little soul scan icebreaker when we first get started. What has made you smile or laugh recently?
Well, you scanning my soul. You better buy me dinner first. Well, you can see a little bit of my art wall right here. A lot of joy goes into that art wall, and anytime I need a little pick me up, I like rearrange it or I add something to it. So that's my like constant source of joy.
Okay. Is this your original art or art you gathered?
It's art that I found at thrift stores, art that I've made when I was like really down, art that my friends have contributed. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of things. There's
Yeah,
some odd things up there too, but
love
maybe.
it. Thank you, Ocean. So talking about kids' books and then like you just magically having kids' book like right behind you, like ready to pull out, that made my day. Um, and also something that's made me smile recently. There's a silly video online of an early 2000s, like our oh goodness, Kelly Rowland, and Nelly Bop. It was like the "No Matter What I Do" song,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna sing it. I'm not gonna do that to y'all. But but somebody like linked a cat going meow every time Nelly does. It was stuck in my head for like a week, and it still brings me joy. So, thank you for the soul scan. We'd love to see it. So, the Black Appalachian Coalition is honored to have you as our guest today. We actually met at Black's First Policy Summit at Simmons College this past July. And you had and still have this radiant, kind, and impressively calm energy about you. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And I was exhausted by the time we were doing like the initial meet and greet. My social battery was down and everything. But you introduced yourself, and I was like, that's great energy. Wow. Let me take a deep breath and pause and listen and be present. So thank you for that.
Of course, of course. I try to radiate calm, cool, and collected, even though on the inside that's never what I'm feeling.
All right. So you're a recent graduate, correct?
Yeah, I just graduated with my master's in community and organizational leadership and research this past May.
Awesome, awesome. So, congratulations, first of all. And your program and your degree is unlike any that I've ever heard of before. Could you speak more about your program and your degree and how you got into your area of study?
Yeah, so when I was in my bachelor's degree, when first started undergrad, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Like I knew I wanted to be in the position to help people, but I didn't want to be kind of restricted by a lot of the, I don't want to say shackles, that feels dramatic, but a lot of the procedures that a lot of typical like nonprofit work and traditional avenues that I could have gone down that road. Um, so I was just kind of stuck. I did like a business administration um, associate's degree, and I was like, I know I don't want to sit behind a computer. Then I met the director of the community education program at West Liberty University. Completely changed my life and completely changed my view on um, education in general. So the community education program is all about education outside of the formal school system, because we all know that children aren't solely educated by the traditional school system, right? And that becomes more and more true as we like get to vulnerable communities and communities of color. Because like growing up Black, like you can have 15 ladies that you call auntie even if your mom is an only child. So you're constantly learning. A lot of kids are like don't even set foot into a school building until they're 5 or 6 years old, but they're constantly learning. So the community education program is all about the learning that takes place outside of the school walls, and that felt like it was a really great fit for me, just because there's a lot of flexibility. You can really choose where you want to go. I chose to do a focus in visual art. So my bachelor's degree is in community arts education. And then my master's program is kind of an extension of the community education program. It carries those same values into research. Um, so I completed my capstone in my master's program for community and organizational leadership and research, looking at how power is perceived and how it presents itself in schools for both teachers and students.
Wow. Thank you. Um, so with all that in mind, what does community organizing mean to you? Like if someone heard your major and was like, this might be my passion, but what is the definition you would give them?
Well, that's actually kind of an area that I've struggled with. When I heard about this job, I didn't know what organizing was. Like, organizing, what's that? I've never done that, but then I learned what it was, and I've really been doing it my whole life, and
Mm.
I feel like that's the case for a lot of people. But I feel like organizing is, simply put, uniting communities and empowering communities.
Okay.
Empowerment itself, I learned through my research, it doesn't really have a good definition, and it means different things to different people, but I think that's kind of necessary, right?
Mm.
Um, because empowerment to certain communities is totally different than, like, the community I'm in right now. Um, people need different things, and I think that that manifests by way of understanding it in different ways, you know? So I don't think it's really a conflict or something that academia or research can solve, right? Um,
Right.
I think it's just the truth, and the more we learn about it, the better we can serve all of these communities, right?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm hearing like it's subjective. Empowerment is subjective and everyone's truth is subjective.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think that sums it up perfectly.
How is academia and higher education? Ooh, yeah, okay, I'm gonna ask it. How has academia and higher education hindered or improved your knowledge and passion for community organizing?
Well, my mom, when I was growing up, really instilled educational values into me, like really valuing my education to the highest degree. Um, by her standards, education gives me my power,
Mhm.
right? And I believed that for a really long time. Um, but I think there's something to be said about the experiences outside of school. I think they're more meaningful. Um, so my education has definitely helped me get where I am, helped me secure the salary I have, helped me um, build my networks. And I think school is really what education in general is what you put into it. You get out of it what you put into it.
Mhm.
Um, but on the other hand, there's a lot of unlearning that I've had to do, because a lot of the times when you're in these, like, professional programs, you're learning to be a professional, they're teaching you how to be a white professional.
Yeah.
Guess what? Guess what? I'm not a white professional. Um, so I wasn't really fitting into the boxes that they wanted me to,
Mhm.
and that's a big struggle that I went through in capstone. I had to defend my research, defend my topic a lot because nobody'd really looked at this topic before. And the people at my school, I kind of got the sense, didn't really want anybody to look at this topic um, because, in their mind, they have other things that the resources could be going to, right? Um, so I really just stuck with my guns. I defended my research until I lost my voice, and I tried my very best to prove why this is an important thing that we need to be looking at, you know?
Mhm. That's- So, academia is not a space that was originally meant for anyone who isn't white or male. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like there's this concept that we're often raised with, that once you make it to this place, then you've made it, then you will succeed, then you have to do X, you have to do Y, you have to do Z, and you're essentially institutionalizing yourself. And like, you can have productivity, you can have forward movement and implement change without institutionalization. And that's just reiterating what you're saying. Like that unlearning is a whole different can of worms. It is a reckoning. But thank you for sharing that. Have you experienced any obstacles in addition to the pushback on your research, as far as your organizing journey goes?
I'd say it's just kind of hard to exist um, as a person with my identity in the area that I live in. I am from like a really tiny town in West Virginia, like no stoplights at all, and like only a few Black people. And all of the other Black people were from one family with
Mm.
like a bunch of kids, right? Um, so I feel like I've been isolated for a really long time and for like self-preservation a lot. And I've kind of carried that into adulthood, and that's another thing that I'm trying to unlearn, like unisolating myself, unsiloing myself, and being able to ask for help and accept help. Because I like get into this mindset where like I don't want to bother anybody, you know? Like I I'm so glad that they're letting me in this space. I don't want to bother anybody, you know? And I'm like, now what are you doing?
But
Why are you thinking that?
but it's almost been like hammered into us. Like, with if can I ask if you've well, can I ask is kind of asking, but have you gone to predominantly white institutions, like elementary school on up, or?
Yes. I remember being the only Black person in my elementary school for the first several years until um, a family from Haiti transferred into my school,
Mhm.
which I was like so excited. I was like, oh my God. And I still to this day have never had a Black teacher. The institution I just graduated from, well, that's not true. I've had so many Black teachers, but I've never had a Black teacher that was paid to be a teacher, you know? Um, the institution I just graduated from has one Black professor, and I clung to her. I looked to her for advice. I looked to her to know how to carry myself in those spaces. But I have never experienced like being taught formally by a Black person, which I think is a huge problem.
No, I completely agree. And I asked about a PWI because you mentioned like this urge to apologize once you're in a space, and I think that's one of the consequences of PWIs. Not consequences that we like necessarily deserve or chose, or like this is punishment. It's just a result. Like there's also like hostility that I experienced in a going into elementary school, like fighting to be in every honors classes or different placement because they always question my presence there. So there's almost like an unspoken hostility and like apology for existing in the space that you actively have to combat. Like after it's uh uh um
Nope.
but
Relate.
um but that I thank you for mentioning that there were teachers outside of my professional getting paid to be teachers. That's that is beautiful, and that's like we're often taught to only honor whoever has the title, but
Hmm.
like half of the wisdom that we carry is from our elders and loved ones and random aunties up the street. Um, so what are your dreams, to switch gears into a bit of hope? What are your dreams in relation to your field of study?
Oh my gosh. What are my dreams?
You know, like if you had unlimited access, unlimited funds, somebody handed you millions of dollars, what would your dreams be for your community?
I think one of my core values is has to do with youth being in front. A lot of people like to say like youth are our future, and I'm like they're doing stuff now. Like if you pay attention, they're now.
Yeah.
And I think with the right resources and support, like I mean, they're already surpassing a lot of our expectations of them just by nature of being young, right? Um, but with the right resources and support, like they have the passion. I think we're seeing a lot of apathy as a way of self-preservation, just because times are tough, especially for kids. Um, but I think that apathy is hiding passion. You know, I think the apathy is hiding passion and compassion. And they're full of it. They are ready to use it. They just need some guidance on how to use it effectively, you know. Um, so one of my pipe dreams is like to be able to have a foundation or something of the sort that grants like small sums of money, mini grants, things like that for like youth-led initiatives, youth-led organizations or projects. I have been kind of like pondering this idea since probably the start of my master's program. Um, but I think that's a lot of times one of the biggest barriers is like money and access to it.
Hmm. Wow. Oh, speaking it into existence that your dreams will come into fruition. Because seeing a youth led like grant foundation, youth led philanthropy would be dope. Um, so I like to ask our guests to leave our audience with a little nugget of wisdom, any advice or affirmations that you'd like to share. I want to ask this of you in two ways. One, what little nuggets of wisdom would you leave with our youth? And what little nuggets of wisdom would you leave for people who need to listen to our youth?
Hmm, that's a great question. Um, I remember being in like my first therapy session when I was very young, and it was a white man. Oh, these words came from a white man. So sorry. Um, but they've always really stuck with me because, like I said, it's rough out here. Being young is rough. Um, but these words have kind of carried me through some really tough situations. Um, and he told me one time, "Don't borrow grief from the future." So don't set yourself up to be super upset or I mean even super elated for something that could happen until it happens. And that has saved me a lot of anxiety. I mean, I have a lot of anxiety anyway, but that has saved me a lot of anxiety. Um, other than that, I would just say like don't wait for somebody to tell you yes. You know, you have to create your own yeses because someone isn't always going to be there to give you permission. But sometimes you don't need it. So for the adults that need to start listening to youth, I would say, I mean, they're already showing you what they're capable of with all of these protests on college campuses. Like, there's full foundations being ran by people like well under 25. Um, and if we just listen to them, I mean, why are you listening to me? Go listen to them because they're the ones with things to say. And they're going to be running everything. They already could be. So,
Thank you. That is a word. That's two words. Thank you. Um, I'm really grateful that we've met, and I'm hoping to stay in community with each other. How can our listeners stay connected with you, either through a website or social media that you're comfortable with sharing?
yeah, so I'm on social media a little bit. I try my best. Sometimes social media gives me a little bit of anxiety. But A lot of my work is showcased on the acluwv.org website. That has a really great work that me and all of my amazing coworkers have done collectively and individually. Um, and they just continue to impress me. So please visit the website and allow them to impress you too. My Instagram is at o.oceanna. Um, I don't know how to show you that, but if you remember, then you can follow me.
So at o.oceana on social media and acluwv.org for the website. We got you. Thank you so much, Ocean. Thank y'all for tuning in. Peace and blessings, y'all.